down to business.
Everybody's business is mine. Oh.
So, hello all.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you very much for being back with us this week. If you're just joining for the first time, welcome. Hope you're all well. My name's Mike.
I'm Meg.
And in our Keep Growing podcast today, we thought we'd talk about how to start, grow, and maintain a business.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about our experience, our journeys.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. A good disclaimer would maybe be, we're definitely by no means business mongrels.
Experts. Yeah. Neither of us went to business school, so this is not how to exactly.
We're not tycoons. We're not
Stephen Bartlett.
We're not millionaires by any stretch. But with that said, I feel like there might be a lot of people that, like us, we don't have that particularly business shark mindset of like how do we make millions? How do we scale this? We're just two regular old folk who have started businesses in areas that we feel passionate about and that we like, and it's sort of that it's not sort of on the extreme. It's basically what you would do if you were someone like us who had been working in 9-to-5 jobs for a while, and then how do you go from that to starting up a business project of something that you're passionate about, and how do you basically keep it going and to the point where you're enjoying it, you're having fun, you're making some money for yourself, you're able to pay your bills, and this is just going to be our sort of interpretation of how we've done that, and how we're able to sort of keep going doing the businesses that we like, and how we've been able to start other little side hustles and how they've turned into decent sort of revenue streams, and that's the way I was going to approach it anyway, just as a sort of like help for people that would be in the same situation as us but aren't like, okay, well, you got to go to business school, you got to learn how to do this, you got to strategize, all that stuff, I
think it's nice even just hearing people's experience, like, how it was in the beginning, how they got started, how they keep going with it, because it's one thing having an idea of something and then it's like, okay, well, practically how do we actually make it work? How do you put yourself out there? How do you use tools and platforms and stuff to engage with people?
That's right.
The trials and tribulations, the ups and the downs, and
the on one side of it, the great excitement of being like, okay, I've jacked my job in, I'm going in on something that I feel passionate about, and I'm gonna push that. And then the other side of it being like, that's great, but there is an element of you gotta do some work. You do have to turn it up, and
nothing is like gonna happen unless you put the work in.
That's
like
it.
For the vast majority of us, anyway.
That's it. And I feel like I've been guilty of doing that, where I've done that before. It's like, it's like, you'll talk very passionately about something and be like, yeah, it's going to be awesome. Like, oh God, we can do this, we can do that. It's going to be great. Yeah. High fives all around. And then you wake up the next day and you're just back into your routine. And I'm guilty of doing that. And so there's some things there that you can do that will, that ways that you can sort of maneuver around that and get to sort of like hit the ground running.
Yeah, for sure. Should we go take it back? Maybe maybe you could start with like your very first kind of, so this is like fresh out of uni, I guess.
Okay, yeah. But I'm going to try and be mindful about how I can use tell stories, but also drop in bits of information that are useful. So just for people listening, it won't be a totally like sort of, I won't just be talking aimlessly about my past and how I've, in that very loose sort of way of like, one day I just turned it on.
Well,
and
it wouldn't be like that.
No. But
hearing the story, like,
yes,
okay, well, how did you actually start?
Right. Yeah.
That's like,
okay.
That's good.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so, I started before I went to uni. I was working 2 jobs back to back. And if for anyone that was listening to the last podcast, you'll know this. I was working at Game and I was working as a waiter at a Chinese buffet. Then I got to uni, and I decided I was always interested in music. I was always a musician, and very, very competitive industry to get into. And I was like, well, how can I make money? That was my main. Well, for years it wasn't about making money. For years it was about, I do this because I'm passionate about it. I love it, and that's still the reason why I do it. But there was an element of like, okay, well, look, how I don't have any money, and I don't want to go and get another job at a place like Game, and to do your own gigs. To put your own gigs on when you're sort of young and you're new to a city, it's very competitive. It's very difficult. So I was like, okay, well, I'll busk, right? Like that makes sense, because like you're on the street, you can sort of get a sense that you're going to get some money in.
You remember your first ever busking session?
I do remember my first ever busking session. And also I will have a caveat to this, was that I was very fortunate to have my dad be this little annoying little buzz in my ear going like, you should busk, you should do this. And I was like, no. I remember we would walk through town, Liverpool, and he'd see buskers and he'd be like, look, you could do that. And I'd be like, oh, don't be stupid, old man. Oh, like, you'll never get it. You'll take away my passion for the drive and oil. Like, look, these guys are playing for pennies, never me, man. What an idiot. And I refuted it for a long time. And then I remember thinking like, no, like, why would I go and work at Barburrito for like £6 an hour when I could go and I could just do this, right? I could go. So I got like a little tiny busking amp. I had like guitar mic stands and microphones because I was you've always got them lying around if you're a musician. So I put some money into it. Wasn't a lot of money. My setup was very minimal, very basic. Couple of leads, cheap mic, and went out onto Church Street, which is like the main high street in Liverpool.
Yeah.
Opposite the Primark, and I just started playing. Folk songs, lots of Bob Dylan, lots of Neil Young, stuff like that. Were you
nervous? Or did it just feel did it feel like nothing's gonna come from this, so whatever? Or was it nerves?
I think it's that's a good question, and I think what was so funny was that when I went out to do it, I was very nervous, and I was like, okay. And I remember seeing lots of other buskers on the street with big setups, really good setups, and I was like, oh my god, like look at what they've got and look what I've got. Then I also saw a lot of homeless people that looked very intimidating, and as time went on, I continued it, that those suspicions were true, because I'd often get like people coming up to me saying like, you can't busk it, this is my spot, you're taking money away from me, all that stuff. But I was nervous, but I just did it because I was like, well, no matter what, it's going to be better. It's still music, which is something that I'm still passionate about, and it's better than me standing for a couple of hours in Game trying to shift a fucking pair of fucking like Turtle Beach headphones, or like fucking like, I don't know, like I was like a used PlayStation to somebody who's got no
Some
clue.
poor kid.
Oh no, this is the best PlayStation in the world, mate. Yeah, no wink, all while I'm winking at the staff behind the bar. So I was like, no, I'm just gonna do it, and I did it. I did it for about an hour. I think I made 17 quid was what I made
in the hour.
But I remember
That's really good though. Like when you do think of it as an hourly wage.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even this was how long ago was this?
This would have been 2016, something like that, 2017.
So, like 8 years ago, something like that. Like, I don't know what the minimum wage was for our age 8 years ago, but it definitely wasn't £17 an hour.
But what was funny was that I finished at as I was playing, my amp was playing up. I hadn't put the right batteries in the amp, so my mic was cutting out constantly. I remember feeling very intimidated while I was out there and very scared. And I remember thinking like I probably would have been busking for longer than an hour. It probably would have been more an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And I remember counting the money up and being like, no way. Never, not doing that. What a waste of money. What a waste of money that I've spent on the amp. What an absolute waste. Got home. Waste of time. Silly. Why did I even think of doing that? And then I got home and I sat down and I mulled it over, and then I was like, and then it was like an itch. It was like, well, I've just made 17 quid. That was like 3 hours work, and I've just done it in an hour. And if I would have stayed, I could have probably made more. And then I was like, all right. And then I remember going back. Then the next day I woke up and I was like, well, just go and do it again. Just go and Just try it, you know, just see
Yeah.
how you feel. Go there a bit earlier, maybe you'll feel a bit different.
I remember you getting up at like 7 in the morning some mornings, like
Well,
to go and
yeah.
to go and like secure your spot for the day.
It got to that point where busking was so competitive, especially at Christmas and the weekends. Bands would come out from, they'd literally come out from around England to come to Liverpool, and I'd wake up at 6 and I'd go and carry all my stuff into the middle of Liverpool city centre, and I'd stand in the middle of Church Street while the cleaners,
Right after a Wetherspoon's burger.
sometimes when I, you know, when this is like in the late years when I was laced with cash and I had money to spend at Wetherspoons, I would go to Wetherspoons and buy like a burger like at like 6 in the morning, and I'd have like a burger and chips, and then I'd like walk, because I'd be like, oh, this is my reward for getting up that early, and then I'd have like a chocolate Gatto cake on top of that. People would see me and they'd be like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah,
like
yeah.
You've just come in from like a heavy bender on night for
Who's-
like your tea.
Who's this kid with like all this music gear, and like he's got like you know, I looked bigger than I was because I wore like 5 layers of and even in England it's like up, you know, if you think like October through to March and April, it's still very cold.
Yeah.
So I would go out at like 6. I'd set up. I'd just wait. There'd be people, like there'd be street cleaners. There'd be people from the night before still lingering, and I'd just wait there till like 9. So I'd wait for like 3 hours. Then I'd play all day till like 5. Then I'd go back to Spoons. I'd get another. I'd get another burger. Hello, me again.
You know the order.
I'll
have my usual.
And then I'd do the night shift from like 6, 7. If it was a Friday, I'd go to like 11. Do you remember those days of like me getting in at like 1 in the morning, and then I'd sleep for like 6 hours, do it all again.
Feels like such a long time ago though. Like, but it was just your day-to-days, especially on the weekends, and
yeah. And it's not, no, that's because I don't busk anymore. I've not busked in ages, but that's because I did it so much to a point where I was able to get enough money behind me and enough experience behind me that then people on the, you know, street saw me, and they'd be running venues, and they'd say, come on, can you play at our venue and stuff, and then I'd be getting money. I'd be earning like what, you know, in 2 hours what I could get from 10 hours on the streets and stuff. And it wasn't about the money. That's not, but a very realistic part of, which is something that I had to break down in my head quickly. It's like everything you see, in my opinion, everything that you see out there, that you know, people's social media, people's creative accounts, they all are essentially businesses, whether they brand it that way or not. They might not overtly come out and say it, but especially for musicians and creatives, you have to have some sense of money behind you. Otherwise it's not feasible, and you've got to pay your rent. So, and if you can't pay your rent, then you need to, you know, you'll be doing something else. So a lot of people might have a 9 to 5, and then they go and do their creative stuff on the side. Now, it's like I on the one hand, you want to say like, well, if that works for you, that works for you, but when you think about what the 9 to 5 entails, it's really like a 7 to 6 or an 8 to 6.
It's your whole life.
So the majority of your time is actually spent not doing the thing you love. You might have like on the weekends or on the evenings, you might have your the thing that you're working towards, which is great, and a lot of people will do that. And hats off to people that are able to dedicate both worlds.
Amazing.
But for me, the thing was like, look, I'd be playing the guitar in my room at home and doing nothing. So if I can turn it on and go out and do it on the street, or I can do that and get some money in and build my experience. And, you know, I had placards that said my name, so I was getting my name out there as well.
Yeah.
So and from doing that, from putting myself out there, then all these other things came about. It was like there was a knock-on effect of me getting asked to play in venues, me getting my name out there more. So then when I wanted to put on an original night of music, or I wanted to do like, you know, like tours or gigs in other venues outside Liverpool, I already had this decent sized following from people that had seen me on the street. And that was like, you know, that's like grassroots support. That support that's like, those are the people that were there that were like, oh, like there's this kid in town, he plays, you know, folk music, and he plays music, and those would be the people that would see me and then, you know, come to my gigs and get invested with my other music and stuff. So that was my start, and that's how I then springboarded into doing all these other stuff, like just gigging more regularly and being able to afford to record music and then release music and then put that back into sort of, you know, like other things like touring or doing music videos and being able to record in like in professional music studios and stuff like that. That's all come from that, just sort of like being like, okay, well look, like you're this 18-year-old that makes £17 on your first busking session, pack it in, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, it's so
Just
easy to think like that though, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
no instant gratification or overnight success or...
Yeah, well that's huge, isn't it? It's the thing of not having that. There was it's like, I think sometimes now I've got it like, you know, like this weekend I've just got off, it was Paddy's Day weekend, so I've just got off the back of like 4, 5, 6 gigs or something, and from Thursday, and it's been intense, and but then I think it was like, yeah, it isn't intense, but what was intense was 5 years ago, getting up at 6:30, having to fend off a couple of homeless people that are trying to say, get off my pitch.
Robbing you.
People robbing me.
Trying to rob your gear.
People trying to rob my gear.
Being freezing, having frostbite.
People freezing. The council coming up to me, you know,
nasty ladies from Home Bargains.
Nasty ladies from Home Bargains saying like, oh, you know, like,
bugger off, you shit.
Oh,
like,
but you won't be here for much longer because the council are going to crack down. That Home Bargains.
I remember that so well, like that whole thing.
Oh, it was horrible.
So
loads
mean.
of difficult
she's like, you play the same songs over and over again, which is utter rubbish because you have such a big repertoire of songs. Why would you bore yourself to even play the same song again and again and again?
I just did it to piss her off.
How'd you like those apples? Have you heard this? It ain't me, babe.
No, it was tough because I remember that she came out and started to she was having a big go at me. She basically took a break to come and berate me outside the Home Bargains shop, and she was a member of staff there. But I remember the interesting thing was that I really tried to break down what she was saying, and I really tried to get across my point of view from a point of view of like, look, I'll try and turn it down. The last thing I want to do is upset you. I'll try and play more songs.
Of course, you were so nice.
I can't,
nicer than a lot of people would have been after getting that sort of penalisation.
Well, you know, just trying to get. She was an older woman and she's working in Home Bargains, and I was trying to give her the benefit of the doubt, and I was trying to say, yeah, I can't move because there are other spots are taken up, and this is my income.
If I go, someone will just.
If I come, someone else will come. Yeah. And she didn't want to hear it. All she wanted to do was spend 15 minutes berating me, telling me how terrible I was and how awful the music was, and how my day of reckoning is coming because the council are cracking down, and I'll have my day of justice. And then I remember like a month later we walked past there and Home Bargains had closed down. So it was a month later, was it after COVID? Was it
after COVID and stuff that had closed down? I wonder where she is now.
But that's not me. I'm not saying I'm not. Oh, Maggie.
I'm joking.
That's not me saying
joking,
like
no.
What, because I felt bad for the woman. But it was an interesting thing of like, there was a woman, right, who'd been in this chain.
Yeah.
She'd been made redundant.
Yeah.
And she had. I'm assuming, but I assume that she had nothing then to go on to, and she had to find another job. And then there was me, who had no security, no promise if I've got a job, I've got a place I can go, you know, I've got money coming in, or where that money's coming from. I had the misfortune of someone berating me. I had that a lot. I had homeless people berating me a lot. I had other people coming up to me a lot.
Other buskers as well.
Other buskers trying to... I could spend it.
We could do a whole episode on that.
Bands that would come out and they would park in their cars on the spot, and they'd be in there with heaters. And they'd be like, oh, you know, we'll just wait here for a couple of hours, and yeah, we'll just wait in the heat. And I'd be like, well, I'm not like I you know, it's like this spot's for anyone, but it's like you're from out of town, you're in this car, now you're going to be here all day, and so there wasn't an element of a lot of camaraderie amongst the buskers. It felt more like it was competition time. But the point being was that there were more instances where it would have been easy for me to break down and be like, I can't handle this. This is like, I'm working really hard. What's the payoff? I'm getting berated by people. Other buskers that are bigger and have better equipment and have cars can get more priority because they can literally park in the street. This is just, it's not worth it. But then, you know, I was just able to keep going and to keep digging at it and to keep chipping away. And it's like, I'm not like, you know, I'm unsigned. I don't have a record label or anything, but I also have the freedom of my day to day basically being anything that I want it to be, you know, because I've put myself in that position where I sort of have enough money and experience from that where I can be like, well, I don't have to ever really get a proper job, because my job now is that it's like from all that hard work,
it's anything you want it to be.
It's just like, you know, it's like the jobs that I get through music, be it a gig or writing or, you know, like being paid to write music and stuff like that, all has come from that sort of from all those hard yards that I did early on, if that makes sense. So now it's like my job feels very easy and loose, and it's like, what you do, it's like, well, I just basically spend my time writing music and playing music, and sometimes I'll make funny videos and I'll do this, like it's 3:00 on a Monday and I'm sat here with you and this is what we do. And that was all started from that. It's not about it, it's not about the music, so to speak, and it's not about the idea of me being like, well, how does you getting up at 6:00 all those years ago and doing all that calibrate to what you're doing now? And it's like, it's just more of the it's about the principle, it's about the mindset. It was about the thing of being like, there was a lot of opportunities where it would have been easy to jack it in and just be like, no, it's too much, like this is, you know, like, you know, I got held up at knife point once. Like I got people held me up at knife point and took my money.
Tried to rob. Yeah, well, they did rob you.
They robbed me money. Yeah, and I was like, that would have been enough to be like,
not doing this again.
GG's.
Yeah.
But you know, yeah, tra. But you know, but you just keep going, and then it's like, now it's like you reap those benefits and those rewards in little ways that might not seem like they are, but they're incredible. Yeah. Like this is one of those things.
It's such a reward.
But I've taught for a while, so I appreciate it.
It's so inspiring though, Mike. It really is. Like, you are very inspiring to me, and
thanks.
Just, you are right though. Like, it's not like you started busking and you were raking in the money, you were getting all of this support, and like people were like picking you up and like offering you all these things. It's like you had to really put yourself out there when people would, like, you know, kind of joke about it and be like, oh, haha, Mike, like, you know, busking, you're not going to go anywhere and do anything with it. And not that you've turned this massive music career, but now you like have had this foundation that you've built through hard work and like going out there, going door to door looking for gigs, going door to door looking for different music and players and all sorts. And you know, and now you've got this, and it's like, yeah, you won't do it. It's like you said, the mindset of that's what it taught you, and now you've got that, and you'll always have that now. And no matter what, you could turn your hand to a lot of things and figure it out because of those harder years. Yeah,
well, thanks, Meg. I appreciate you saying that, and I do think that's I just think it goes back down to that thing of like, the more you push yourself, the more you put yourself in uncomfortable waters, the more you are just constantly trying to push past that barrier of like, I don't want to do this, I don't want to get up and go and do busking for 6:30 in the morning in the cold. What's the point? I could just turn over and go to bed. I don't want to, like, I don't want to be like, again, like, put X amount of money into a music video and then plug that and you know, messaging people, hey, you know, I've got a another big thing that if anyone knows, if people that are listening that will know me, I for years, it's like with my music or my like my social pages and stuff, you know, I will message people and be like, hey, can you do me a solid and just click this subscribe button, or click this like button, or click this go and listen to this piece of music.
I remember you would do that a lot.
And it's and for ages I remember like having such a weird thing about it, because it's like, oh, that's not real, like people aren't really engaging, people aren't really, you know, I'm asking them to do something. But then it's that thing, is
you don't ask, you don't get, though.
You don't ask, you don't get. And it's funny that, because I remember, and I only say this because I was for times I've been berated, you know, by people close to me, saying like, it's stupid that you do that. What you do isn't a job. You don't have a job. You're really lucky. You're just really fortunate. You know, you can't talk about, you know, having to work.
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And but then it's funny how people will get up and go and stand idle behind a cash register or you know, in an admin job, and they will do the same thing day in, day out. But then the idea of being like, hey, can you go and listen to my music, and sending that thing out to like 1,000 people.
Yeah.
Or like, hey, can you give me a subscribe, because if I get to this amount of followers, I can start making a bit of money. And not that it's about the money, but obviously,
no, but
like,
of course it's important.
That's another thing people don't tell you about. You know, if you want to get your music on something like Spotify or something, you have to go through a distributor, so you have to pay.
Yeah.
So before you've even released your music, you're down.
Oh yeah, you have to spend money to like even hope to make money.
It's incredibly unrealistic that I'll ever make what I've spent back from what I've put in to sort of making the actual music. But I've always found that interesting, that it's like people would, and I'm generalizing. A lot of the time you'll say to people, hey, can you go and give this a like for me, and people are always, a lot of the time, more than happy.
Yeah.
And that's something I would encourage people to do. Like, don't be afraid of getting in touch with people and being like, hey, like I'm starting something up here, like, and I'm trying to do something with it, and I know you guys, and this grassroots support is really important. So would you mind helping me out? A lot of the time people are more than happy to do that and help, and it's just it's a really useful tool, I think, that people
for sure
that people maybe neglect. But let's talk about
you.
Let's
hear my voice
talk about
now.
you, Maggie. How long have I been? I've been talking for like 25 minutes. Yeah.
No, that's good though. I'll do the same.
Tell me about your first
period.
Tell me about is there a day in your, because you worked for a long time.
Yeah.
You worked a lot of jobs.
So many
took
jobs.
A lot of,
all the way through college, all the way through uni.
All the way through uni. You took a lot of shit.
Multiple years after uni, having many a job, usually multiple jobs in a year, at various shops, various cafes, various restaurants, all that jazz, just part-time sales or front of house and all that stuff.
Yeah. And was there a day for you that it just something just clicked and you were like, I can't do this anymore, like, this is, I gotta start doing something else?
Yeah, you know the day.
Well, why don't you talk about that?
No, I'm joking. Yeah, of course.
It's not the time or the place.
But working my ass off, and then lockdown happens, and I'd luckily got a job just before lockdown at the Body Shop, so I was working there part-time, selling soaps and whatnot, and then lockdown happens, they close down. I'm lucky enough to get furlough, so that was super fortunate for me, because I didn't really have, I was getting like part-time minimum hours, but it was enough to cover my rent and bills and a bit extra, so I was very lucky to be able to have that and not have any major worries of my own health or my family's health. So yeah, lockdown, I was like, right, what the hell do I do now? I've got a bit of money coming in, don't have to go to work, don't have to go and zombie out for the next like 6 hours. And it's so sad as well. I remember when the masks came into work, like you had to wear your mask at work. What did you when the mask with Jim Carrey came out?
That's genuinely where I thought that was going. Yeah.
When the mask came out, oh, what a film. So when the masks became mandatory, people would be like, oh, like, so annoying, we've got to wear these masks, like, blah blah blah. But I loved it because I didn't have to put on like a fake smile all day. I could just put this mask on.
God, that's sad, isn't it?
Isn't that sad? Like, I would just be like, oh, I'll put this mask on, like, I don't have to fake, hi, how are you, like, hello. Or like, if someone's talking to you, you can just kind of, you know, you still give a nice experience and stuff, because I'm not a dickhead, but you know, I don't have to pretend as much as I did before the mask anyway. So yeah, it's lockdown of 2020, and I thought, oh, I'm just gonna do a little side hustle. I'm gonna embroider some stuff.
Well, if I can just interrupt, let's take a step back, because I think there was I want to hear about the moment that day.
That's coming though, because that's
you were having things. Oh, that's right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I'm sorry. Yeah,
I know what you mean though. But yeah, this is literally just leading up. So I set up a small Etsy shop for myself.
And this was during lockdown, wasn't it?
This was during lockdown.
A lot of people got into the.
So many people started businesses in lockdown, which is great to hear, because it's, you know, it was obviously a shitty time for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But for me, I was lucky enough to actually have it work to my advantage in a lot of ways. So yeah, I started my small business, Moonflower Creations.
Plug.
Made a little logo on my phone. Set up a little Etsy shop. Got a few secondhand jumpers and t-shirts. Embroidered some flowers on them and got them on Etsy, and set up a little Instagram for myself. My first ever proper Instagram since I was in high school. So that was all new. And then yeah, I just started doing that, really, just Instagram and Etsy, taking photos of what I'd made and trying to share what I was making, and would sell some pieces. And like I remember like making a sale to someone, like my very first little Etsy drop.
Yeah.
That was like 2 jumpers and a top.
Yeah.
And then like they sold. I was like, it's like 40 quid or something, but it was like,
how did that make you feel at the time?
It was amazing. Like people that I didn't know. One girl saw it, Gemini, lives in London, and then she shared my page because she had a crochet account. And then this other lady I know from York, I think, called Steph, saw the other jumper and bought them. And it was like, oh my God, I can't believe people have actually bought something. They've spent their hard-earned money on something that I've made, and now that money is going to come to me. And it's like, wow.
Yeah.
It's such a crazy feeling, because I was like, who am I? Like, there's so much out there. There is such a vast sea of people that want your money and people that want your attention. And it's like, oh, you've stumbled across something that I've made and thought, I like that, and I like it enough to pay to have it. And it's like, wow.
Well, that's another important distinction, because you didn't, like, you just, so the money aspect is like, that's in the background, but you didn't start it so you could primarily make loads of money.
No, I was not thinking about making money through it.
You started it because you had a background in crafts and you did at uni, you did
I'd done like textiles at college,
you did photography.
I'd always been like into crafty stuff and always wanted to do something like that
always
the way
a maker.
through my life.
You were always even when we first started going out, you were always like making little things, be it like scrapbooks,
like 100 different hobbies.
Yeah, but just it wasn't as if that you went and going like, right, how can I make some money? It was like, well, what do you want to do? What is it? You've got some money coming in from furlough. What is it that you're passionate about, or not even passionate about? What is it? Something that you've got an interest in, and as a result, you made some stuff that was like, you did it for the right reasons.
Yeah,
and people see that. It's not as if that it was like, okay, well, what's a design? It's
gonna sell,
live, laugh, love, coffee first. It was none of that. It was stuff that you were like,
it was just my own creations of just things I thought, way undercharging for my work as well. But that's just a funny thing that you don't realise until later on what your work is worth.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so started doing that. Did not really think too much about it, other than this is nice and this is cool and this is a cute project and who knows where it might go. But I didn't have any major like aspirations or anything with it, which is interesting, because I think now they say usually people starting a side hustle or a business that their passion is so strong at the beginning and then it dwindles and burns out after so many months, years, things not going right. It just doesn't quite come into what they want. But for me, like at the beginning, I didn't have this like wild passion or ambition to like make it for myself, because I think really I didn't take myself seriously enough, and was just like, I'm not going to put much stock into this because I don't see it like going anywhere for myself and stuff like that.
Well, I think you just lacked self-belief. I think you lacked like self-confidence, and I don't feel like at that point, I don't feel like you had that voice that was in you that was like, let's run at this.
You can do
let's
this.
do it. Like, let's get serious and do it. I don't think that was necessarily developed.
I definitely
as it is
didn't.
Now. But that came with time. That comes with you.
But now I have it. Like, I have it. I mean, I've had it so much since then, but I feel like, and it goes up and down, obviously, of not every day or everything's easy and stuff, but I feel like my passion and my drive for it has grown over the years instead of dwindled.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that day when I was like, okay, let's give this a go, was when everything started to reopen again. The lockdown was lifted and people start going back to work. And
I love this story. So it's very inspiring.
It's a good story.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the Body Shop were like, yeah, you're gonna come back, but we're bringing back staff on reduced hours. So you either come back full time, pretty much. It was like I couldn't just do like 3 days here and there. It was like, no, you need to come in 5 days, 6 hours plus a week sort of thing. And I was like, oh, like I tried so much to ask them to just have me part-time again, but they just weren't interested. And I remember we were sat on a bench near the Big Costa in Liverpool One, and I was like, I was ready to go, ready to start my shift, and I was just like, I can't do this. Like I can't like give up this thing that I'm doing to go back and basically see it end.
Yeah.
Because that's what it would have done, because I know myself, and I've never been able to have a part-time job and then also have a business on the side. And it's like, why did it take lockdown for me to actually give it a go?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's because I had my time.
Yeah.
And, I had money coming in and stuff. So that was what was really scaring me. I was like, I don't know if I can make any money from this, like actual money to support myself and everything. And I was sat with you, and you were just reassuring me, and you were very like pivotal in me saying, okay, I'm gonna pack it in there. I'm not gonna go back, and I'm gonna give this a real shot, because it was you, really. It was your voice telling me that I could do this. I could take it seriously. I could take myself seriously.
Well, I think your voice was in there. I think it was just me that was just bringing it out, because you wouldn't have put yourself in that situation where you should have been in work, but now you're on this bench and you're there going like, I can't do this. If that voice hadn't been there, you wouldn't have had that incentive. You would have just gone into work and done it and been like,
it.
So it was definitely in there. It's just sometimes you do need that. It's helpful to have that voice of someone being like, listen, like,
it's everything.
I can step in and tell you, because I'm looking at it from an objective point of view. It's like, I know that you can do this. And I imagine the sad thing is, right, is that I find it very lucky that
is rare that someone would have that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And I think I had it again in the last podcast. I talked about this a bit, but I think I've had that instilled in me a lot from my dad and from my mum in more subtle, nuanced ways. But my dad was always the person that was like, don't be working for somebody else. Don't be giving your time. Your time is precious, and you're going to give so much of it to somebody else for all the wrong reasons, and don't do it. Just go and bet on yourself.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's just lucky that whenever I hear anyone say, I'm thinking about doing this, I will just latch onto them.
Oh yeah.
And just be like,
I love that, though.
Quit what you're doing now. Stop it and just go and do it, because we've done it, and it's like we were able to. It's like we didn't have, and there was no one there that was like, okay, well look, here's a buffer $5,000, here's a 10 grand startup, here's a public scheme where we say we'll give you X amount of startup money. There's none of that. It was I didn't even get furloughed.
During
didn't get
COVID, any furlough,
I had to be on universal credit, and
I was on universal credit as well. Should definitely make that apparent that, like, I was on universal credit through working with the Body Shop as well, because I just wasn't. I was on a really minimum wage, and minimum hours, so they would like top up my salary, I guess, not salary. They would just top up my wages. Yeah. And then, when I quit that, I would then just have to work with like my, what are they called? Like your
work coach, life coach.
Your work coach, and I'd be telling them like, look, I've started this business, I'm doing this, and they weren't supportive, like they weren't like egging you on for it. They were very like,
they just want but they just want you off the books. They want you.
They just want you in full-time job. Really, they're not interested in anything else.
That's another terrible thing, that like we live in a society where it's like because I was there as well. I remember going to my when I was on the dole through COVID and stuff, and then just after COVID when things were just starting to get in, venues weren't hiring, they weren't taking on new musicians, the music scene was still down, people weren't really meeting. It was a weird time, and I remember going and being like, I think all the while knowing that like I'd been doing like for years I'd been doing busking, and that was something that was like I know that I can once that picks up, I know that I can do that again. I remember being like, I'm thinking of, my skills are in music. I'm thinking about like maybe, I'm gonna go like do music, and there was this thing of like, let's put a pin in that. Have you considered the civil service?
I was gonna say that they always tried to get me on the civil service, and I was like, look, you work for the civil service.
And are you getting commission from everyone you sign up to the civil service? You
don't look like you're having a good time, mate. Like, why would I want to do what you do?
Listen, if there's anyone that's listening that is like on universal credit, or they're considering like they're looking for that voice, okay. Fuck them, seriously. Don't, like, it's not, because I remember what happened with me was that...
I used to come off the phone crying.
You would come off the phone crying because they'd be like, this isn't good enough, like, you're not pulling...
Really belittling me, yeah.
Really horrible, but at the same time, it's like...
But I get why.
The flip side, they will have people that are taking advantage of the system. Yeah. But then at the same time, it's like, you would look at us, two 20-year-olds, and it's like, look, we're not... look, we don't. There were the people would come in next to me and they'd have fucking cans of Stella, and I'd be like, oh,
well, they'd be trying to blag like everything under the sun to get extra money.
It's like, I mean, we both know people that are like, you've not got a fucking problem, like you just can't be asked getting off your ass, and it's like. I would see people like that and be like, how come this fucker's not getting the 5th degree, and I'm here going like, don't be a musician, like don't do that, join the fucking army, and it's like, oh, not the army, but And I would get so... I remember it got to the point where I said to them, I was like, take me off.
I've had enough.
So I don't want the money. Close my account. I'll find money elsewhere. And then they were like, oh no, we're not saying that. And I was like, no, I don't want to. I don't want to come here and have my mental. But you like get it in my ear every week that I should be doing this, that, and the other. Everything but the thing that I'm passionate about. I'd rather.
I get why they don't want people to do that, because they're not, they're just interested in getting you off the dole into a job. They don't care what job.
No, I totally know. I mean? But I think that's horrible.
It is horrible.
It's a horrible system.
But, I mean, how lucky that we live in this country that has that opportunity for people. Like, I was like eligible to claim money to keep me going, in a sense, like to keep me going and have support. I mean, I was only on it for like maybe the best part of a year.
But it's
through
nuanced,
COVID. It is nuanced, yeah. There's obviously a lot of flaws to the system, but I feel grateful that it was there as an opportunity for me, and it was a bit of help. It was like, it was something that was, especially again, like, would I have ever considered going on the dole if COVID hadn't happened? Because everyone and anybody was getting dole money during COVID. Like, it was so helpful to so many people who were self-employed or didn't get furlough, and you were getting money from like that musicians. Do you remember not union, but there was something that was helping musicians out or something, and
it was the musicians union, I think,
and I was getting
help musicians, it was, and they were great
as well.
They were great.
A grant from Over the Water that granted money to help with like building websites or for equipment and stuff that I made the most of, and it's like loads of things like that are helpful, but in a big sense, you feel like you just don't know what's going to happen. There's no security. There's no.
Well, it's like that thing of you saying like, sorry, I cut you off.
No, that was it really. Just, but so then quit the job, and was just doing my business full time with support from you, and like trying to build a community on social media, and then looking into other local makers who were doing something and reaching out to other like makers and small businesses and artists, and then it just went from there. And I remember maybe it was like that Christmas when I first started doing like my first little pop-up markets, and I was looking back at old photos and stuff from them the other day, and seeing my first ever little craft stalls and stuff like that. And then it's just been that's what kicked it all off, really. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's all. That's the end of my story, I guess.
Just the beginning of your story.
Well, that's the end of the.
of
That
your,
was the end of the
how you
beginning of the
started,
story. Yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, like, how long ago was that? That was,
Just over 3 years.
and so for 3 years now, you've been
Yeah.
doing that full time.
Made it
and,
work.
And you've not just been doing that, you've been, so, you know, what started off as like, because that's an important thing, isn't it? It's like you started off as making some stock, doing some Etsy drops.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, that's
Doing a couple of markets.
then you'd start doing markets.
Yeah.
And then there was then there was a really good, I remember us having this conversation about, and it's you know, and you make a good point. It's like, how many markets can I do? Even if I did every market in the book on the calendar, I'd still be only able to make a certain amount. There's a threshold
There's a
to
limit
what I can
here,
do.
yeah.
And I remember, and this is like, I don't want to.
Yeah, we can talk about like the domino effect of opportunity. I think that's such a key thing as well. Like, you might think that what you're doing now, if you're out there listening to this, you might be thinking, what am I doing?
Just do it. Just bet on yourself.
But the domino effect of opportunity, like, you might be doing a handful of things now with your business, with your creative hobby or passion or side hustle. But it's like, for every one thing that you do, that starts a domino effect somewhere of like getting noticed, meeting other people, getting more opportunities, people wanting to work with you, people wanting to work for you, people wanting to do this. And it's like, yeah, like I started doing craft markets, having a stall, and then you were like a voice in my ear saying like, you should run your own craft markets. You've done plenty of these now. Why not you? Like, so many people out there organising them. Why don't you just give it a go? And I was like, bugger off. Like, I cannot
She's got
do
a
that.
right mouth on this one.
I was like...
this one. When she doesn't. But that's always a good. I always find that's a really good tell.
Yeah.
If I suggest something, and it's probably the same with me. If I suggest something and you really go against it, then I feel like
I'm just so stubborn sometimes.
I'll just jump on it and I'll crush you with it and
You
be
will.
like, that's the thing then that you've got to do.
Yeah,
and it's kind of the same with me though, and I think you've picked up on that with me with loads of things. And it's like, if you get a whiff of me being a bit evasive about something, I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that because actually you'll come at me.
Yeah,
and
I really try hard to, because I forget sometimes that you're also, you need support as well. Like, you support me so much and inspire me so much, and I want to be like that for you. Like, I want you to think, what would Meg do, or what's that piece of advice that Meg gave me that I can follow. So if I see there's something in you that maybe I think, have you tried this? Have you thought about this? Like, I used to just keep it to myself, thinking that you had everything under control and you knew it all and there's nothing I could tell you. But now I'm trying to be like, well, no, like, I want to...
Well, that's great.
You know...
That's really great, because I
want to keep you in check as well.
And I like that. I like it. I like that idea of, it's like the idea of keeping each other in check. It's more the idea of we keep each other challenged and we keep each other responsible and to a standard.
Yeah.
It's like, hang on a minute. Like, it was the other week, do you remember, we were in Tesco and I was like, do you remember? And I used to, back in the day, I used to just eat before we embarked on any lifestyle change. I used to get a meal deal and it was like a chicken and bacon sub, hula hoops and iron brew. I used to have that like every day.
Every single day.
My veins were absolutely twatted.
Clogged.
And I remember the other day we were in there and I was like, I think we're going to get like a...
That was wild.
Yeah, and I was like, and I chucked it in the basket and then I got just to like the fruit section and I was like, what? Hang on, what am I doing? Like, what is happening? And I was like, I'm gonna put this back, and you were like, yeah.
But that's what I mean. Like, I should have said something. I should have said like, are you sure you want to get this? Because you could just buy ingredients to make your own sandwich.
You did say that.
I did. But then you were like, no, yeah, I want one. Like, it's gonna be like nice, and it's such a fine line, because I can say, I don't ever want to tell you what to do. I don't want to ever.
No, I think that's okay.
No, I know,
that's
but
all right.
Especially with food, I never want to tell you. We'll do a whole other episode on eating and stuff, but I never want to be someone in your life that's trying to restrict you in what.
No, honestly, sweetheart, I'm telling you now.
Because if I tell you I want a pistachio croissant and you turn to me and was like, you don't need that, I'd be like, fuck off.
That's different. That's different though. But it's like, say for example, it's like the other day, right? You didn't want to. You woke up and the day had gotten away, and it hadn't really. We were about an hour out from the regular routine time. and you said the night before that you were going to go for a run. Naughty. And you were like, I'm gonna go for a run. And I was like, and the night before you said I'm gonna go for a run.
Yeah.
Then the next day.
So much motivation the night before.
Yeah. And then the next day we're about an hour out, and you're like, no, I think I've gone past it. I think I don't want to do it. And it's like, oh no, and because you wanted to do a run, then you wanted to go to Lunco to get a pistachio croissant, and that was going to be your day. And you were, before we'd even moved, you were like, it's too late. They won't have any left. And I was like, what are you talking about?
Not going. I was like, I can't go on my run yet because I know they're not going to have any pistachio croissants.
This was it. And and we had to, I was going to say then, I remember it was yesterday. And I remember sitting there. And I remember, and I was like, no, come on. Like, and I had to sort of change my attitude, and I had to be a bit sort of like, get up and do it. Don't be lazy. This is what you said you were going to do. You're just making excuses for yourself. Go and do it. And then you were like, no, you're right. I've got to go and do it. Now, the difference is if I would have, and it works both ways. I feel like if I would have been there going like, oh baby,
you can't go for a run today, honey.
Let's go and get a croissant. And it's like you'd have not pushed yourself that day. You'd have gone and got a croissant.
I'd have been happy to leave it. Yeah.
You'd have spiked your dopamine, double spike, and you'd have triple spike, and then you'd have had a crash, and you wouldn't have felt the rest of your day. You'd have been like, I didn't do anything that I said I was going to do.
You're so right.
I gave myself all of the enjoyment, all of the free dopamine. Didn't work for any of it, and now my day is going to be crap.
You're so right. And that's what I mean. Like, it is a balance, and you were so right doing that, I guess. I didn't pull you up and go hard on you about your meal deal, because I thought if this is just what Mike really wants to eat, he should be allowed to have it. But I guess it's having that thing of being like, well, hang on, let's just take a step back. Like,
you're not thinking about
this. Like, why do you want this food that you've got this connection to?
Absolutely.
That used to bring you so much comfort and so much satisfaction. And
because I was a big kid.
No, but what were we talking about before the Subway?
I was enormous. He was enormous. I was so big when I was a kid.
What were we talking about before we talked about the meal deal?
We were talking about
keeping each other in check.
Keeping each other in check.
Oh yeah, because I was saying I want to do you were saying run craft markets, and I said no way, Jose. That's way too hard. You talked me around.
That's a nice way of putting it.
I was stubborn for a long time. You pushed me to do it, and now that has become a complete It's become a complete utter side project alongside my own business of running my own pop-up markets and craft markets, working with other venues, and it's become a whole new community, a whole new like income for me of something that's like, oh, this is amazing, like I can do this, and that it comes with a whole other load of challenges because I'm not just responsible for myself anymore, but it's been amazing, and I have a lot of aspirations for it, and it's great getting to work with like bigger like companies in the city and stuff, and that's amazing. That never would have happened if I hadn't have took this another leap of like doing something new, and then all of that. I feel like, and you're the same with like hosting other gigs and like doing like streaming of music, and it all just dominoes into so many other things, but nothing will happen unless you start like you have to putting in the work.
And sometimes you have to, with dominoes, it's like it's not just like you do the first step and then it's away you go.
No,
you have to be the one that pushes at each interval. But with just quickly about the stuff that you were saying about with running your own markets, that was like, we were talking, it was like, even if you did every market in the book, you'd still only be able to make a certain amount, and that's not even guaranteed, right?
You're not guaranteed any money at markets.
I'm not guaranteed any money when I used to busk. There was no guarantee there. So I remember us having this conversation. It was like, well, look, why don't, it's like the opportunity's not there. So create the opportunity.
Yeah, create employment for yourself.
Exactly. It's like, there's only so many markets. Make your own market.
Yeah.
And I remember you were, and this is like where we not differ, because it's like, because you're so, you think more about other people than I do, in the sense that I think more about,
maybe that's just because my community of makers and like small businesses is way more opening, so you kind of, you think of it as as you working as a collective of loads of people,
No,
whereas
100%.
for you, obviously with music, you've experienced so much competition and
Yeah,
toxicity.
but yeah, no, and that's fair. I just meant more. I think like your demeanor. You're always more you're always more caring about other people.
Thank you.
You put other people first. You think, not that I don't do that, because I think I'm very caring and considerate, but
Yeah.
I think that it's like I've always got to make sure that like I'm in check. I spend a lot of effort making sure that I'm where I'm supposed to be, so that I can focus on other people, if that makes sense. Whereas I feel like
Yeah.
with you, it's a preset. It's like you just have it wired that you'll think about other people, you care about other people in that way, and you can slip into that quicker than I can. So I should probably say that it's not that I'm not like that. It just takes me a
No,
different
yeah.
path to get to that place, whereas you seem to do it very easily. But I remember us talking about doing your own markets, and you were always like, well, you know, I want to make them good for people, and I want to make sure that they're good and that people feel like they're being supported and that I can do it. And it was always about the other person. It was always about, how do I make this good for the people, which is very sweet. And but then it was having that, realizing that it's like, well, look, if you don't do it, someone else will.
Yeah.
And
so
someone else
true.
could do it, and
Yeah.
they could do it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, they
and
might not care.
They might not care. They might be
Yeah.
prioritizing other means and other things that aren't for the
Yeah.
people. And that was something that you were always still to this day, you're very diligent about. You're always saying to me like, well, I want, you know, I'm you know, I want to make it more bigger, and I want to make the signs bigger, and I want to make sure, I want to
Yeah.
make it more, not flamboyant, but more attractive, so that
Yeah.
people come. And that was an example of you seeing an opportunity and being like, there's a lot of risk that you can take with that, because
Yeah.
you essentially, what you do is you take all the responsibility and say, this is me,
Yeah.
this is my name now, and I'm putting my name
Other
on the
people
line.
are involved as well.
Other people are involved.
It's so easy to be like, oh, not that I have a whatever attitude when it comes to my own business, but
No.
if I make something and no one buys it, it's like, no sweat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But I put on a market, no one comes.
Mm.
That's not good.
No.
You know what I mean? I can't have that.
But there is always risk. There is
yeah, of
always
course.
risk associated with you doing your own thing, and with you
Yeah.
being bold and saying like, look, there wasn't a market to begin with, so I'm going to make the market.
Yeah.
So that's bold. That takes a
Yeah,
lot to
it
do.
is.
And it's the same with, you know, you get wholesale orders now.
Yeah.
So that just didn't come from someone knocking on the door with a gold check saying,
Yeah.
"Oh, hey, we've
all that
seen you."
stuff you've made, yeah, we're going to give you this
we'll
money
take
for
that off
it.
your hands. You know, that
Yeah.
didn't happen. You had to get up and you had to go into retailers and be like,
Yeah.
"Hey, look," you had to pitch yourself. You had to be
Yeah.
mindful. You had to be not market yourself, because that sounds
I think you have though. Like, you have got to market what you make, because if
yeah.
people can't get behind who this product is for,
Mm-hmm.
why would they be interested in buying it from you? And
Yeah.
like, that's something that, like, neither of us have been to business school, but people talk about, like, oh, it's like, it's the person, not the product, and all. Like, you could make such beautiful things or make such beautiful music, but if you're not putting it out there to the right people, no one will find it. It won't necessarily go anywhere and stuff. So it's such a fine line, isn't it, of like art and commerce and
getting out there
and the product and the person and all that jazz. I feel like we could do a whole other episode about, I mean, this is kind of like, we spoke about how we got started. Maybe we should finish her up talking about what's like a piece of advice you'd give to someone who maybe wants to start their own business, start their own side hustle alongside their job, or anything like that.
Sounds good.
And then we could do a whole other episode about like so much more about
like social media, utilizing social
Yeah.
media for the
Yeah.
right reasons and for your
Yeah.
benefit, and because that would definitely be a good one, I think.
yeah.
Talking about social media,
You just spill loads of stuff.
just spill some lemonade on my
But yeah, if you want, like, that could be good to wrap up the
to try and
just to how to get started, or if it's a
Yeah.
mindset, if it's a tip, if it's an idea or something.
I would say, this might take a few minutes to sort of formulate, because it's like it's
That's
a kind of a
okay,
big
yeah.
question. But
No rush.
I would say that there's got to be something that everyone's got an interest in, and some people might have that interest more ignited within them than others. So some people might be working, as a barista or something, or I don't know, an admin job, and they might be a very talented musician, painter, something in the animator, something in that realm. Or maybe it's not like that. Maybe you just really love writing. Maybe you love reading. Maybe you love something along those lines. Maybe you love golf. I don't know. Maybe you've got something. Maybe you're a sporty person and you just love sports and that's your passion. And it's like, okay, well, how do I go out and do that? How do I start making that my life? And I would say it is very, very, very difficult to half-ass two things. And I think that changes when you get sort of set up a little bit, and when you start diversifying into other creative projects. I think that rule doesn't apply. I think once you've done something in one area and you're well established, you should explore other areas. I think that's the whole point of life. But if you've got an interest in something like that and you think this is something I just feel it's itching away at me, it's like, okay, well, you don't have to quit your job straight away. It doesn't have to be this big thing of you walk in, you kick down the door,
like,
hey dude, you can suck my ass because I'm none of that. It's like, I mean, you can if you want. I mean, I think
props to you.
But it's
that's
like,
not exactly how it went for us.
No, and you might not be this 18-year-old with a hell of a load of energy and attitude and like, just this like blind confidence. I feel like that's what I had. So, but I'm trying to mediate my response, because not everyone's going to be 18 years old. People will be 28, 30, 40, But I would say it's like, think hard about what that thing is that you're passionate about. Maybe it's video games or something, What is it that you love to do? What is it that it's like, that's my day where I can just do that and I love it? And think about what you would need to just start up some very basic steps into making your life look like that. So a really quick way that you can do that is be like, okay, like, you think you're a musician, or you create stuff, or you like video games, or you like doing it. Make social media pages specifically about that. So have a page that's dedicated for your music, or for your markets, or for your video games, or for your your golf, your tennis, whatever it is. Become that thing, become that person, and be like, okay, that's me. Make people aware about it, message people. That was something that I still do to this day. I'll be like, hey, I'm starting up this thing. Would you just do me a solid and just click that button? Because it means that people start acknowledging me for that. And the
worst that they can say is no. And I mean, you and me have been sending out invites to come listen to the podcast. Yeah. If people don't respond, that's cool.
That's fine. That's totally fine.
But most of the time they go, yeah, no worries, looks cool.
Of course. And you build up a bit of a following. You build up a grassroots support, and you go, oh, hang on, now I've got a couple of hundred people behind me. And this is all stuff that we've done. So we've got a couple of hundred people behind us. Okay. Well, now what is it you want to do? Are you gonna write a bit of music? Are you gonna start making some stuff that's about the thing that you love? And you can literally start doing that the minute you get off from work or before you do work. And I would say that it's difficult for people because you'll be so used to working a 9-5 that you don't want to come home and do this other life. It's like, you're going to have to make a decision. You're going to have to decide how much you want it, because if you want it and you're not willing to quit your job because you've got bills to pay or for whatever reason, you're going to have to work extra hard. You're going to have to go home and you're going to have to turn it on and be like, now I've got to not sit there and watch TV and be on my phone. I've got to start running this thing. I've got to start messaging people. I've got to start making stuff that's important to me. If you're playing video games, you're gonna have to start streaming. If you're gonna have to film yourself, and anyone that's got a phone can set a phone up and film themselves doing something and say, hey, this is me.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what building a portfolio looks like, right? Because you upload something on social media, you do that 50 times and you've got 50 snippets of you doing something that you can send someone and be like, hey, same with this podcast. It's like, well, we've got 50 podcasts out. That's what we do. Go and listen to it.
Yeah.
I've got 50 examples of me playing music. Go and listen to it. You've got 50 examples of you running markets. It's a portfolio that then people acknowledge and say, oh, like this person, they don't work for HMRC doing admin. They're actually a musician, and look at all this stuff that they're doing that's really cool. Just from doing that, I think you'd be surprised at how then that connects you with other people that are doing the same thing that you're doing, or the things that you're interested in.
Yeah, even just really quickly about when I set up my Instagram for Moonflower and I started being like, okay, I'm going to go and follow a bunch of people that are either in my area or abroad, but I was trying to focus on people that were in the UK doing what I want to do. I had no idea the world that was out there of people having an Instagram account with, a few thousand followers or tens of thousand followers, of making things and having a shop. I was like, oh my God, I didn't know people used Instagram for this at the time. I was like, because at the time I was like, oh, do I need social media? And I was, oh, really and ahhing in it. And it's like, the kind of like, it's not even a hard truth, because social media is something we're going to have another discussion on. But it's like, you can connect with people and like, you start a support network and a community of people that want the same thing as you, or are doing the thing that you want to do, and you want to look at what they're doing and take inspiration and advice from that. And
definitely
that can all start, like you say, either on your break from work, on your day off, after work. Like, it opens so many doors, and everyone's got a smartphone. Like, it won't cost you a penny.
No. And another, another thing as well is that, for me, my whole thing was like, if you'd have said to someone, it's like, I'm a musician, I'm a skilled musician, but how do you make money from that? It's just as difficult as like, oh, I want to do freelance, computer science work, designing websites. It's like, okay, well, there is no job where you'll just message someone, or you'll go and put yourself in a situation and you get a couple of £100. Just doesn't happen, And for me, my thing was trying to discover how is it that I can take this and go and make some money, right? So it was like, my thing was like, okay, well, buy some low-key cheap busking gear and go and play in the street for... There's no guarantee that I was going to make any money. There's no guarantee. In the same way that you might think, okay, well, look, maybe could I design like a limited range of something? Am I a graphic designer? Am I an artist? Could I just do like a quick, like, here's 10 designs of something? Can I just put them on Etsy? Can I make my friends get on board with this, share it about? I'm doing a limited edition drop to support my opening of my new business. I don't know what that'll look like. You'll have to figure that out for yourself.
Yeah, it's so subjective to what people want to do.
But it's very exciting when you get into the mindset of like, okay, like, how could I do that? What would that look like? And honestly, once you do it once, like that busking experience for me, I did that once and instantly thought, I'm never doing that again. And it took about an hour to 2 hours of me getting an itch and being like, hold on a minute, like, I probably could do this. I probably could do this more.
Let's see what happens, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like that was me putting in 5% effort. What would it look like if I put 15% effort in? What would it look like if I put 50% of my energy into this thing? In an ideal world, what I'd say is like, if you were in a position to just totally quit your job and walk out and say,
if you've got some savings or something,
if you have a bit of money behind you, or if you have a situation where you can go, the idea of going back and living back home and being like, so you don't have to pay rent or something, I don't think that's a step back if it means that when you actually move back there, you put all of your efforts into the thing that you're doing. Like, that would be the other thing. If you're in a situation where you can do that and you don't have children or you don't have bills to pay, that where the money actually needs to come from.
Oh yeah, there's no harm in that. It's definitely not a back step if you're lucky enough to have that type of support.
Because again, if you're in that situation where like you do have children and you do want to, but there's this thing that you're passionate about, you can do it. It just means that you are going to have to work a certain degree harder, because you're going to have to sort of do two things at once, which is difficult. I feel like in any other situation, I'd say don't half-ass two things. Like, but if you can't exactly just quit your job, if you've got a mortgage, if you've got a house, But maybe if you're slightly older, it doesn't have to be like that. Maybe if you're slightly older and you have a bit of money behind you and you're sort of cemented or you've got some pathways in a career, it might be more of a case of like, well, no, like you can sort of move between those worlds, especially if you've got like a sort of career path that you're happy with, and maybe you just want something that's like a thing that's like, oh, that's also a thing that I do that's for me and that I get a satisfaction out of. Whereas if you're a bit younger and it's like, look, you're in your teens, early 20s, early 30s, you don't have those kind of responsibilities, which is, I think maybe a lot of the people that are listening are more in that demographic. I'd say just go in there and just say, look, it's it's over. My time is limited. I don't need to be stood here pouring coffees for people. I don't need to be stood here taking your shit, cleaning toilets, making fucking sandwiches. I'm going to go and bet on myself and like, go move back home, figure it out, like figure out how you're going to do that. be bold, because it's like, you know, life's over very quick, right? And it's like, you know, that's something that I think about all the time. It's like, what are the things that I could be doing that is like that I'm not utilizing my time as good? So
that's solid advice, Mike. Very practical but motivational as well.
Yeah, I'm like that.
You're really good with advice.
What would you say? What would your sign off advice be?
Okay, my sign off advice, I feel like I'm just gonna say some things that I've defo thought in the past that I still every now and then have emotional breakdowns about, worrying and being uncertain and being unsure of myself, lacking in self-belief, having limited beliefs for myself. Because I feel like your advice was like very practical and very like, this is some like tangible steps here that you can do. But I'm going to try and give advice that's maybe a bit more like emotional support, some like thought-provoking support.
Okay.
For example, one of the things I used to think really heavily was like, immediately if you had an idea of something, or if I had an idea, I would come up with the ways that it wouldn't work out. I'd be like, that's not going to work because of this, and that won't go anywhere because of this, that won't work because of that, and yeah, sod off. But then you said it to me a while ago where it was like, obviously if you're in the position to, and you've got money, or you're studying or something, and you've got this time where you can start putting stock into yourself, or it's something that you want to grow, like a passion project or a business or an idea or a creative pursuit, where it's like, do it despite the outcome. Like just do it. But just throw yourself into the situation and don't even think about if it'll work out or if it won't work out and what might happen if it doesn't work out, because like you'll always come up with 10 reasons why something won't work.
Yeah, that's good.
And like, do it despite the outcome, and instead of spending so long questioning or even just being adamant that it won't work and that you don't see that happening and that won't work out because of these reasons, it's like, well, what if they do? Like, it's so easy to imagine the pessimistic view of it where, well, that won't do that, like, I just don't think that will work. And it's actually so hard to think the other way and be like, oh my god, what if this does work? Or what if that happens? Like, and that thought is even sometimes just as scary, because then it's almost like, oh, so this thing I'm doing actually is going to go somewhere and be something, and I don't know if I'm ready for that, blah, blah, blah. Do you know what I mean? Like,
definitely.
Yeah. Defo just some mentalities, and yeah, the idea of do it anyway despite the outcome, do it even if it's scary, and actually question yourself of what it could look like if it goes well and if it works, and like, isn't it worth giving it a go, even if it's just a slim chance that it could work.
Just don't overthink it.
Yeah, don't overthink it in a way. Yeah,
just go. Just make that decision.
No one's gonna come to your deathbed and thank you for like working at their job or their company for like 60 years.
That's very true.
Very true. I even, speaking about like home bargains and that, like even hearing on the news that the Body Shop is going into administration and the shops might be closing down. Like when I was working there wasn't really a thought of me that thought I'm going to be here forever, but it was a sense of security and like, you know, income security and financial support that's consistent. And it's like, if I'd have still been there now, I'd have probably been out of a job in a year. And then I'd have to start all over again. And it's like, what's it all for? Like, what's all that time and energy worth, really?
Yeah. That's good.
Do you know what I mean?
Good, yeah.
That's a good one. I think that's not bad.
I like it. I like that. I think
I have like a racing heart sometimes.
Yeah, because you get like I
get
that
like
as
really
well. I get geared up.
Yeah.
I get geared up thinking about other people.
I do.
Listening, being like,
that really fires me up, thinking of someone going like,
I just can't. I think of situations where it's like I'll catch glimpses of it where I'll be in like shops or bars or bars from doing gigs, and like, you know, or in situations where there's a hierarchy, there's a chain of people, and I'll catch these little glimpses where you'll see someone talk to someone in a way where it's like I cannot imagine someone talking to me like that. Not
Yeah.
in an egotistical way. I just mean
No,
like
but yeah,
it's like that's another thing that one of those nuances of why we're so lucky. It's like I'd rather go out there and be like, this is challenging. This is
Yeah.
challenging me being out here on my own, trying to figure out how it's all going to work. I've got to figure out
So
where the
many
money's going to come in.
challenges.
I've got to figure out how I'm going to grow this. I've got to figure out what my life's going to look
Things
like.
not working.
Things not working.
Things going wrong.
things going
People
wrong.
not helping you. Like people doing everything they can to like
To work against
work
you.
you
The
down,
odds are
yeah.
always stacked against you, and it's like, okay, but I'd always rather bet on that and do like I'd rather do that any day of the week
yeah.
than be in a situation where someone looks at me and says, go and clean those toilets.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
or
what?
just
Like
gives
that,
you orders and you have to answer to them.
or like someone gives, yeah. Like, how many PlayStations have you sold? None, because like, you know, I don't fucking want to sell PlayStations. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, that's not good, is
Or
it? We'll have
being
to talk
like,
about this on your
"Oh,
next report. You know, like,
if you keep working here, you know, in 3 years you could be a supervisor. In 5 years you could be, you know, manager of this shop. In 10 years you could be regional manager. And it's like, okay, maybe that's good for people, and like if it's something that they're passionate about.
I get an extra 5p and I get an extra 2 minutes at lunch.
Oh, thanks for that 50p, and now I have to be up at 6 a.m. to open the shop.
That's not
Nice
us
one.
having a go. But what,
No, it's not having a go,
we're not having a go. But it's very
It's not
important.
being bad against people that are in that or that aspire to move up like a corporate ladder.
But that's rare, okay? Because
But it is
I don't
so
think
rare.
I don't think anyone joins, say, you know, TK Maxx thinking, okay, you know, I just get my head down, and in 10 years I'm going to be a regional manager. It's like, no. I think what's happening
Is
there,
that what you set out to do in your life?
people can very easily get brainwashed. And this is another thing, just quick before we sign off. When you work for a company, any company, there's always a cap of what you can earn.
So true.
But there is no cap as to how much work you'll do. Okay, and a lot of the
So
time
true. You'll be overworked.
you'll be
underpaid.
overworked. You everything will you will put your mental health, you'll put your physical health, you'll put your relationships, your social life, all of your hobbies and interests will all go on the back burner so that you can basically run this business for someone else.
Yeah.
And they will hang these things over you, you know, and be like, well, there's a little promotion here, and you get an extra couple of pennies.
Company car.
It's like, that's cool. Oh yeah, it's a little bit. Oh yeah, you know, and it's like, and you will get brainwashed into thinking that's acceptable.
Good. Yeah.
Whereas if you bet on yourself, right, you might have to work harder, and you might have to be like, okay, I have to think about this more than I don't just shut off at 5 o'clock and shut on at 9, but there is no ceiling, there is no roof to what you can do with what you want to do and where you want to go, and people never talk about that. Like, so there's always there is always much more of an incentive to say to be, fuck you, man. Like, I'm not doing that shit. You can be in this corporate chain and be in your little circles and be delusioned and be thinking that you're working towards something better when you're not. Or I can go and bet on this thing that even if you've just got a tiny little itch for something, and it's like, you know, maybe that is something I'm interested in. Maybe it's only something I'm interested in, but it might not turn into something. It's like, yeah, well, you know what? You're going to be dead one day, all right? So you might as well spend your time pursuing the things that you want to pursue and having fun with it and taking it all in your stride and having a laugh and having a good time and being with the people you love and spending your time doing that, than sat at a fucking desk and, you know, just looking at the clock and thinking, yeah, well, you know, it's 4 hours until I get off, or it's an hour and a half till I get my 30-minute lunch break, or, hey, don't worry though, because it's Zancy in 6 weeks. It's like, life's too short, seriously.
Yeah.
Like, it really is. And sometimes you need to be uncomfortable, and you need someone to actually say, no, like, I'm not going to mollycoddle you, and say, just get your head down and be like,
you
it's
need
all
someone
good.
to say they believe in you as well.
And we definitely, I know it sounds cheesy,
we believe
but
in you.
we definitely do believe. I know it's like we don't even know who we're listening to, but I believe.
I guarantee the person listening to this, I can guarantee I personally believe in them.
But I believe in myself, and I believe in you in the same way that I'm talking right now.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's proof that we believe in the concept, and we believe in the person, because we wouldn't sit here in front of a camera, and we wouldn't put cameras up, and
we wouldn't set all this stuff up.
We wouldn't set off all this stuff up if we didn't think that we could help in some way. So, you know,
I'm all riled up.
Yeah, I'm all fired up.
Yeah, I know.
I feel like I want to go do something.
We'll figure something out.
Yep.
Okay.
Anyway, we'll say thanks very much for listening.
Thank you, anyone, for listening. And yeah, let us know what you thought. I think there's a
Yeah.
little question box at the bottom of Spotify, or there's the YouTube comments, or anything. If you want to message us and say, "Oh, nice one," that would be so appreciated.
Or even if you've got questions, please get in touch and ask your questions. We think what we're going to do is in a couple of days' time, we're going to put out a free PDF.
Yeah, we want to get on the PDF game, and
a free download that you can access, and it's just going to have some of the highlights of talking points that we've mentioned.
It's just going to be like quicker to access, but also something there that's like we've kind of.
It's tangible. You can use it in real time and in real life.
Yeah, and they'll have cute phone backgrounds as well.
Yes.
So that's nice.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, guys.
We'll see you next week.
Been a pleasure.
Woo!
Bye.
Bye.